Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news, transfer news and preview for the Wolves game. I think it might be an interesting show tonight. I think I might get one or two questions about Amorim's formation post my video earlier, which I've got to say, if you're not going to watch the video before you comment, you expose yourself as an idiot. Because if you watch my video, I actually agreed with what Amorim said. So everyone's saying, oh, you're so negative. I literally agreed with what Amorim said. You just didn't watch the video. And I laugh at your comments. But let's get into the show. Maybe you want to come back with some, well thought out comments. That's all I'm saying, instead of just jumping on a bandwagon that doesn't exist. But lots to get into tonight. Wolves preview. I mean, look, I struggled with that. I struggled with that team. I mean, I really would have been using Lacey or Fletcher if I didn't move things around a bit. So, yeah, beyond that team, it's very hard to play a senior player tomorrow. So, think about it. We'll do about that. But we are playing Wolves. But the most interesting thing I've heard today from Ruben Amorim is nothing to do with the formation. It was actually to do with what he had to say about the transfer window. And this is what he's had to say. So let me know what your thoughts. He is not going to make demands for players in January. He says we have conversations about transfers all the time, not because we're in January. The window is open and we need to understand what we can do, not just from the place of what we can bring in, but what's going to happen to our squad. I'm just thinking about recovering my players at the moment, so I'm not going to knock on the door of Wilcox or Barada to ask for more players. They know what we need, but I also understand that we have a process. We want to do things with certainty that we're not going to make the same mistakes in the past. If we need to suffer in some moments, we're going to suffer to try to be 2 steps ahead. Maybe in the summer, it's a really tough market in January, so we'll see. So look, I think you can literally read that as many ways as you want about Amorim. But look, he also said something in the press conference that I found massively confusing about how they do transfers. He basically said this. Let me just get the quote. Apologies. So he said, on recruitment, sometimes I have an idea and then Jason and the board have another idea. But every decision we make, we need to reach a common ground. This is really important because you don't need to make everything for the manager, because the manager can change and then you need to change everything. But you also need to understand that the manager understands the way of playing. If you don't reach common ground, the player would not come. So we just tried to do that. We tried to make all the assessments of how they live, how they train and the characteristics. I think this is such an insightful comment from his press conference today, because basically what he's admitting is I have different ideas to Wilcox and Barada, who may be thinking about what's better for the club if I get sacked. But I need players for my system while I'm here. So we need to have a common ground. So I think what he's saying is that it's complicated. He might say, I want this player, and they might say, well, we're not getting that player because if you get sacked, we need somebody that's going to be here that works after you've gone. But then Amorim says, well, if you don't give me the players for my system because you're scared of them, me being sacked, why am I here? And so we need to reach a common ground. And this fits perfectly with the formation chat. I mean, where is the back four coming from? Is it coming from Wilcox? We don't know. So there does seem to be a bit of a complication there. And also, I actually don't like football clubs that have a transfer board where everybody has a vote. I'm not saying I'm totally on board with the manager having total control, but ultimately, I'm probably more on board with that than a committee, because a manager will always have an excuse. I got sacked because I wanted this player and they didn't get them me. We've heard Van Gaal, we've heard Jose, we've heard Ollie. And Amorim's obviously in that same boat as well. So at some point, you've got to have confidence in the manager that you're recruiting and give them what they want. But it's complicated. And look, I think Amorim is basically saying, give me time. Give me time, Let's talk about, Alex says, remember when you kept hating on Calvert-Lewin? I've not stopped. I think he's a bag of shit. Wouldn't have him anywhere near Man United, so I haven't stopped, Alex. Boring comment. Let's talk about the Wolves game very quickly, because it is a preview, and then we'll go through some other stuff, because Mazzy says it's outrageous. Buy his players, otherwise what's the point? So, Manchester United against Wolves tomorrow night. I'm a little bit annoyed that it's on at the same time as Arsenal Villa, because I really want to watch Arsenal Villa, and I think Man United, if we don't get 3 points tomorrow, then, Amorim may as well walk. Like, this is not a jinx. This has to be 3 points. And anybody who starts saying jinx is an idiot, because if you're not saying we've got to get 3 points tomorrow, you need to piss off, because you haven't got the standards of this football club at all. I mean, this is 3 points. Like, this is not messing around. I don't want to hear people going, oh, you never know, it could be difficult. Right, they're shit. They're absolutely shit. Wolves are so shit, even the dogs at the dog home would snub them. They're not interested. They're fake dogs. They're not real. They're cats with a collar that says Rex. They're not wolves. They're pussycats. They're rubbish. They're absolute crap. And this is coming from Wolves fans. They're rubbish. As Tobias says, easy 3 points. This is not a jinx. If you think this is a jinx, you're a moron. If you're scared of saying we should beat Wolves at home, you're a bloody moron. I'm sorry, not playing these games anymore. This is just beyond like anything that we need to, even discuss. They are rubbish. They have got 2 points this season. 2 points. And this is halfway through the season, this game. We are literally halfway through the season. They've got 2 points. They've got 1 point away from home. Now, the only thing I would say positive about Wolves is they've only conceded 16 goals away from home, which is the same as Brentford and is only one more. It's the same as Fulham. It's the same as us. It's the same as Liverpool. It's mad. Wolves don't tend to get battered away from home. They've conceded 23 goals at home, but they've only conceded 16 away. However, they've only scored 3 goals away from home, which is pitiful. Absolutely pitiful. That nobody else, the closest to them is Forest, who've only scored 6. So they've lost 8, they've drawn 1, they're rubbish, they're missing Andre, he's suspended. I mean, they'd be better off with Peter Andre, if we're being honest. At least there'd be something mysterious about it. But, jokes aside, we should be getting 3 points against Wolves. Bottom line. However, to play the game, they did only lose 2-1 to Arsenal, and they did only lose 2-1 to Liverpool. So we can't take it for granted. And on top of that, look at that United side. That's as good as it gets. I am not benching a senior player. There is no Manu, there is no Mount. Mount might be fit, to be fair, but that team, I can't even mess around with it. Yoro is fit, but to play Yoro, you'd have to play a 3-4-3, and that would mean I could put Yoro next to Martinez and Heaven. I could play Shaw and Delo, Agate, Casemiro, and leave Xerxes out and play a 3-4-3 if I wanted to. But you've got no centre-back on the bench. So I think this has to be the team. Obviously, I want to see us playing a back 4 now. Formation argument, I know, but I want to see us playing a back 4 week in, week out. Whatever Amorim's reason for not using it for a year is down to him, but I think we've seen it now. I think we're better in it, and I want to see that anyway. But we should still be good enough. I mean, Cunha looks a lot better in the team without Mbeumo and Bruno in it. It's almost like he's taking on the responsibility. Sesko, could fill his boots in this game. Xerxes, hopefully his head's in the game a little bit more than it was. But that could be Mount. Fingers crossed Mount might play. I don't know, but he might. Dorgu we can use on the right-hand side, as we've seen before. Agate and Casemiro did reasonably well. And, Martinez, Lamens and Heaven were very good against Newcastle. So I think that's the team to pick. And I think it's good enough to beat Wolves. I would say we're slightly fortuitous that our January fixtures are what they are, because we've got Wolves, Leeds, Burnley. Now, if we had Brighton, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, I'd be a bit worried with that team, to be honest with you. Wolves might look at it and, I was going to say lick their lips, but they haven't got a bloody tongue and they haven't got any teeth. But the reality is, Wolves might look at that and go, ooh, we can sniff a point here, apart from the fact that they can't sniff anything as well because they're crap. But we should still be okay at home. I'd be a little bit more worried if it was at Molineux, but we should be okay to win this game. So the only change I think is Mason Mount if he's fit. But in relation to Mason Mount, it's another knock. He's had 5 knocks this season already. And people think he's back. Right, he's having a good season, but he's still massively got this injury problem that, you know, he just can't move past it. So I don't know whether you'd risk him in this game anyway, because Leeds away on Sunday, I would risk not using Mount tomorrow in the hope that he's back for Leeds, because we won't have Bruno, we won't have Mainu, we won't have Ahmad, and we won't have Mbeumo. So I would rather we had Mount for Leeds, to be fair, and risk going with that. Maybe he's on the bench, you know. So that's how I think we should be lining up tomorrow against Wolves. But I will predict this one. It should be a win. Like, we can't beat Newcastle and then not beat Wolves. We need 3 points here. And just before we move on to some of the stuff Amorim said, let's have a look at the league table. There's an opportunity here. It's the same old opportunity as ever. We're playing against Wolves, and our goal difference should put us against will put us against Liverpool if we win. So we'd be above Liverpool. So we would go to 4th place. Now, obviously, Chelsea are playing Bournemouth. If they win, we'd be 5th. But Villa are playing Arsenal, so we can close that gap to 7 points if they lose. Liverpool don't play until Thursday, and they're playing Leeds. So it's an opportunity for us to just take 3 points and solidify that top 6. And again, I'm still looking behind us. I'm still looking at the Brentfords, the Sunderlands, the Palaces, the Fulhams, even the Spurs. This is 3 points that just solidifies that top 6 and starts to make us feel a little bit more confident about Europe. So big opportunity for Manchester United tomorrow, and we mustn't be complacent. That I will agree with. We must go into this game with the same intensity and the same concentration that we showed against Newcastle. And I think that's where Lisandro Martinez becomes very, very important. I don't think, I know Amorim was asked about Bruno in the interview today, but I don't actually think, I'd love to have Bruno playing where Xerxes is, but we should still have enough tomorrow. So there we go. Who's your top Premier League striker over the last 10 years, says Neil? I don't really know. Erling Haaland, I suppose. Mark, don't forget to put up your socks for Belaber, says Swan. Xerxes at the 10. Why play a guy who wants to leave? I would play Lacey, says Luke. I mean, we could do that. I'd be very excited if we did that, but I've just gone with a bit of experience because we need 3 points. Mike JW says, Amorim saying that it's purely down to a club brief not being funny, but we need a midfielder now. We can't rely on the players to provide results until the end of the season. We know this from experience. Thank you very much. Okay, well, let's just get into some of the stuff that Ruben Amorim has spoken about. As I said, I started the show talking about what he said about transfers. Jav says, what we should be able to win this game with our reserves at home, no problems. That's how bad they are. Look, I don't know whether they're going to play the same way they did against us a few weeks ago, but honestly, apart from Derby, they are the worst team I've seen in the Premier League. Now, I didn't watch them play Arsenal and I didn't watch them play Liverpool, but they've obviously gone there and done quite well. So, bit of respect. But when we played them, they were absolutely shocking. So we should be looking to win this game. Castle says, hi Mark, what is it about Sesko's performances this season that makes you think that he could fill his boots against Wolves? Castle, well, look, perfect, right, okay. So Ruben Amorim has been speaking about signing players in January. We spoke about this at the start of the show, and he's basically said, I'm not going to be knocking on the door of Wilcox and Barada. We might need to suffer this season so that we can get the players we need in the summer, basically. And it's a tough market in January. I'm not on board with this, but he basically says, we might have to suffer because we want to be certain about the players that we're signing, and we don't want to make the same mistakes of the past. Now, I think Sesko is an interesting player because, Amorim, Wilcox and Barada signed Sesko, and they're saying, well, they don't want to make the mistakes of the past. But Sesko is not an established player. Like, you might have made a mistake there. And I say this in a really positive way. Like, Sesko might be a mistake. At this point, 6 months in, nobody can tell me he's a success and nobody can tell me he's a failure. So I don't understand why they keep coming out about we don't want to make mistakes of the past. Wilcox and Barada bought Xerxes. They're about to sell him. That's one of their mistakes. So we're going to make mistakes in the transfer market is what I'm trying to say. It's been established for years that, you are very lucky if 70% of your signings are a success, which means there's a 30% flop rate. So I don't know what we're trying to dodge. You will make mistakes in the transfer market. The key is not to make as many as we've made. So, You can't say, oh, we're not going to buy players in January because we don't want to make any mistakes. You will make mistakes. If you obviously think Baleba is a success, but I can point at the red flags that he's playing shit this season, that nobody else really wants him. He could easily be another Jadon Sancho, and everyone will go, you're idiots. You went for him one summer and then you got him the next summer, you're bloody idiots. So you can always make mistakes with transfers. I don't think we can ignore the January transfer window because we don't want to make mistakes in the transfer market. We will make mistakes. Ineos have made mistakes. As I said, Sesko could be a mistake. Some of you don't rate Sesko. Now, I do. I think he will become a good player. But I can see and I can respect the fact that some people don't think he's all that. In which case he's a mistake made by Amorim and Barada and Wilcox. And they will make mistakes. So you can't say we're not buying in January. We'd rather suffer and wait till the summer because we don't want to make mistakes. Ruben Neves, Conor Gallagher could be bargain superstar signings for Man United. Either of those players could come in, help us get Champions League football and be like an Ander Herrera. You know, Conor Gallagher or Ruben Neves could come in and be like Ander Herrera. Not the most glamorous signing, but somebody that gets it, performs consistently, Mazraoui type. You know, they could come in and do that. So we can't say it's a difficult market and we can't say we're waiting till the summer. Like Amorim even himself says they know what I want. It's about whether they can go and get it. But I am tired of hearing we need to suffer. We don't need to suffer. We are one of the biggest sporting clubs in the world and we don't need to suffer. Real Madrid don't put stories out about we need to suffer. You know, we don't need to suffer. We need to invest in this team in January. I heard Mikel Arteta say today, basically, we're looking to buy in January. How many players did he buy in the summer? He's built a fucking squad. He's basically got a backup 11. You know, every position he's got a backup. Kepa's the backup goalkeeper, Ben White at right back, Lewis Skelly at left back, Mosquera Hincapié at centre back. He has got a backup in every single position. And he's done an interview today saying we need to be active in the January transfer window. We're Arsenal. It's basically what he said. Mikel Arteta said, we need to be looking to be active in the window. We're Arsenal, you know? And that's a manager who is fighting to win this league that we're in and has just bought 6 or 7 players in the summer. Wish I hadn't said that. But, you know, if Mikel Arteta is saying that, he's absolutely correct. In this league, every window is an opportunity and you've got to be looking to strengthen your team if it needs to be strengthened. And he obviously feels that that team needs strengthening and they need to look to do it. I wish we had the Arsenal squad. If we had the Arsenal squad, I'd actually be okay with not doing anything in January. But we've got loads of holes in our team. We've got a manager saying we might need to suffer till the summer. You've got Arteta going, we need to be active. We need to be looking at what's going on. So that's the contrast. That's the frustration. That's the standards, you know? Some people go, oh, stop moaning. You're just so negative. It's not moaning. It's not negative. It's actually positive. It's saying we can be better. And to be better, we need to be doing what other clubs are doing. You're being brainwashed by people who don't know what they're doing. Jason Wilcox has never played for Man United. He doesn't support Man United. He doesn't know anything about Man United. Omar Barada's from Man City. These people don't get the standards of this football club because they've never experienced it. They don't know what the standards are. They're pretending. The standards of this football club is we should always be looking to improve. And we cannot go into games with weaknesses. And the weaknesses are the midfield. And there are players that you can bring in. And you know what? We've all been out in our younger days and gone, this is the dream I want to go home with. And the reality isn't always that. It isn't. So we might want certain things, but we can't wait till the summer for them. There is a race going on now, and we need to be in that race. So look, that Arteta and that Amorim interview today really stuck a chord with me. And I don't blame either manager. Ruben Amorim is obviously lowering the expectations because he knows more than we do. He's probably been told, we're looking at supporting you in the summer. Arteta's saying publicly, we need to look for players because he probably knows they're looking for players. I mean, they've got, I can't remember the name of their director of football, but he's good. So they will be looking for opportunities. My fear is that My fear is that Amorim might have dropped something in the second part of what he said about recruitment that explains why we're not doing anything in January. And I've never said this before because I've never really thought it. But when he said this, and I'll read it out just because I don't want to get this misquoted. When he said, this is what Mikel Arteta said, we will be actively looking to strengthen the squad. This is a direct quote from Mikel Arteta, right? We will be actively looking to strengthen the squad in January. Depending on the availability of certain players, the window is there. I mean, we're Arsenal and we have to be looking at that. I never thought I'd be clapping Arsenal or Mikel Arteta, but wouldn't you love to have a manager saying that at Man United? We will be actively looking to strengthen our squad in January. Depending on the availability of certain players, the window is there. We're Arsenal and we have to be looking at it. I mean, this is why we fail. This is why we fail. And we've got fans who think it's negative and moaning to say, why aren't we doing anything in January? And Arsenal are literally there with a much better squad than us and a manager saying, we're Arsenal, we'll be doing stuff in January. And, you know, I ain't blaming Amorim, I'm blaming the owners. That's the situation that any Man United manager has to deal with. Everybody else is looking for opportunities all the time, and we're being told, wait till the summer. But what worried me about what Amorim said, and for the first time, I sort of thought, is there something in this? He basically said on recruitment that you need to understand that the manager has a certain way of playing, and if you don't reach common ground, the player won't come. And I have my ideas, and Jason and the board have their ideas, and we need to reach common ground. That's important because you don't need to make everything about the manager, because the manager can change, and then you need to change everything. And I thought, you know what? That is not Ruben Amorim's job. It is not Ruben Amorim's job to sit there and say, I understand why I might not get players I want, because if I get sacked, they might not be suitable for the next manager. That's basically what he's saying. And I'm like, hold on a minute. Are we actually not going to do anything in January because they're waiting to see where we are in May? You know, is that the reason really? Because I've not heard Amorim say that before. And he's basically saying, you know, I can't have everything I want because if I fail and I get sacked, the new manager inherits my stuff that might not be suitable. And, you know, you hear Mikel Arteta saying, yeah, we're going to be active in January. And you hear Man United going, we're waiting until the summer. And you think, why? Are we waiting until the summer to see how Amorim does now? But Amorim's got more chance of failing if you don't give him what he needs now. It's the same old thing that John said this morning. By signing a player in January, you give yourself a better chance of earning more money in the Champions League and being in the Champions League than you do if you don't. But it worries me when I hear Amorim saying, basically what he said is, I need to accept that I won't get what I want because the club might have different vision about me not being here and players that are going to suit different systems. But a manager must be backed. You can't recruit a guy that plays 3-4-3. I'll never forget this from a Portuguese journalist when we got Amorim. And he said, this guy will succeed at your football club if you give him what he needs. But the player profile for his system is really, really niche. Like, they're niche. You can't just use a left back as a left wing back. You can't just use a right back as a right wing back. And you can't use a left winger or a right winger to do it. They need to be players that can do both roles really well, like an Alphonso Davies or a Hakimi or a Mendes. They need to be players that are good defensively but also wingers. And it's the same with the midfield. They've got to have certain profiles. So if we're not going to give him those profile players because we're scared that they won't suit the next manager, then why did we bring him in the first place? I'm really at that point now with Amorim where I'm like, I actually feel quite sorry for him because I did the video on the formation earlier. Loads of people didn't watch it. They just left a comment because they were saying, what's he supposed to do? I literally said that in the video. He's in a position where he's changed the formation because of the players he's got available, but he didn't want to change the formation because then he may as well leave because it's not what he's all about. So he's in this position where he's changing formation because he needs to, but he doesn't want to because it undermines him. And then he wants to bring players in but he's got a committee saying to him, well, that player's a little bit niche for your system. What if we get rid of you and he doesn't suit that system? So he's battling loads of stuff because he's a very unique manager who plays a very unique way. But it all goes back to the same thing. Why is he here battling conversations about formations, battling conversations about signing players, when the people responsible are the people who recruited him? I find it incredible that a year down the line, he's doing interviews talking about a back four, when that's not what we recruited. And I find it incredible a year down the line, he's doing interviews about having to basically bend over to agree with a board that might not want to buy him players that he wants. They might want to buy players that are going to suit the next manager. And you think, well, the job's hard enough. This job is hard enough. Without giving a guy with a distinctive style of play players that don't suit it, and then without supporting him, I feel like Amorim, if Amorim succeeds, it will be incredible. And if he fails, he's definitely going to be in the same position as other managers where we're going to go, he wasn't backed. Because they're not backing him at the moment. And you can argue you don't like Amorim, and you can argue you do like Amorim, but nobody can argue that he's not been backed properly. He hasn't been backed properly. Dorgu's a kid. That's not a left wing back. That's not a solution. That's a kid. Sesko's a kid. That's not a striker. That's a kid. Lemens is a kid. He is not a goalkeeper. He's just doing really, really well. So in 3 key positions, he's been given kids that he needs to nurture, but he hasn't got the time to do it. Yoro is not his signing. Sorry, I've got that one wrong. Cunha and Mbeumo, good signings. Good signings, right age, right profile, 100%, definitely. No midfielders. He's been here for 18 months. He's been here for over a year, no midfielders. He has not been backed to the level, considering he's been here for this will be his 3rd transfer window. I don't think he has been backed. And I don't think it matters whether you're Amorim in, Amorim out, Amorim on the fence, Amorim till the end of the season. Nobody can challenge the fact that he's not been backed. Now, you can still be Amorim out and say, well, I don't care whether he's been backed or not. He should be sacked. I understand and I respect that. But he hasn't been backed, and you cannot respect Wilcox, Barada, Radcliffe when the reality is they've done a shit job. They've done a shit job at backing him, and that's a fact. And I think Amorim's interview today was really interesting. And that's why I did the video about the formation, because when he talks about the formation, he's basically saying, I haven't changed the formation until the AFCON because I need to. And I didn't want to change it before because other people would say, well, that's because of the media and the fans. So I think that we do need to understand that it's a very, very difficult job. Sanchit says, but he isn't demanding to be backed. But that doesn't make any sense, Sanchit. But what do you want him to do? Stand up in the interview and say, I'm not being backed, they won't back me. See ya, you're gone. He's playing on a very sticky wicket. It's very difficult. You can't come out and say, I'm not. He said in the interview, that Wilcox and Barada know what I need. They know what I need. But I'm not going to go banging on their door. They know what I need. Perhaps Amorim himself was a panic buy. You don't hire in a niche manager and not be ready to open your checkbook. Did Barada just steal City's idea? Says Alex. Radcliffe says he's got 3 years, but he can't back him. I don't care what Sir Jim Radcliffe's got to say, because to me, the guy is, I wouldn't say he's a fraud. That's too far. I would say he's an amateur when it comes to football. He's not the sort of guy I think I could sit and have a conversation about football with. I just find it very disingenuous. I don't think he knows a lot about football. And what he hasn't realised is the owner of a football club doesn't sack a manager, the fans do. And the media do to a certain extent. So he can say he's going to give Amorim 3 years. If Amorim loses 5 of his next 10 games, he'll have lost this fan base, if we're being completely honest. And Amorim, Sir Jim can talk about 3 years, but it won't be 3 years. They want, the Glazers wanted to keep Ollie a lot longer than they did. It was the fans that turned, I don't care about Arsenal, but they are constantly trying to improve. The owners will still fudging us over. They want us to wait and wait and wait. He needs now, not wait, because it can fail otherwise, says Mike. Let's say we sack the manager. A club well run has a plan and a future regardless of the manager. We are not that. Yeah, well, Andre, look, some good comments coming in. Absolutely. You know, we've been down this road so many times. We've been on this cycle so many times. If Amorim was sacked at the end of the month, what makes you think, or the end of the season, what makes you think we're going to be any better with a new manager? You will still have the same problems. He will still be working for Barada. He will still be working with Wilcox. He will still be working for Sir Jim Radcliffe. Sacking Amorim will not change Manchester United's fortunes. I don't believe we're set up to be a successful club anyway. There's all sorts of rumours going on at the moment about debt. I think the club needs a reset and needs brand new owners, and I hope that one day we get that. The official bunny says, how can I become a member? Click the join button. Callum says, keep up the good content. Merry Christmas. Thank you very much, Callum. Merry Christmas to you. Lewis Marsh says, just if Amorim gets sacked, who out of these would you get? Tuchel, Pochettino, Inzaghi, Areola, or even Ollie again? Not too sure who I would choose. Well, as I said, I think they'd struggle under this ownership, but out of those five, I probably would go Tuchel or Pochettino. Sesko was a summer signing. If he flops, the agreement against making signings in January, says Castle. Could we play Cunha in Bruno's position and place Bruno as a cam? Our midfield would have more pace in and bring in other talent in the next window, says Hypertop. No, you can't. It'd be absolutely wasted time to play Cunha as a midfielder, in my opinion, Hyper. Mike says, I can't say Sesko is a mistake. I don't think Rasmus was a mistake. To score, you need opportunities, and there was too much lack of service. We had this issue for years. It's not changing overnight. And Jacob says, nearly a year as a member, time flies. Thank you for all your hard work, Mark, says Jacob. Thank you very much, pal. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully, Tolu scores against United tomorrow. That'll be nice, says Raphael. And Wolves are in a bad state, says the Moose One. If we score first, then it says to lose. But from history and pattern, we'll give them confidence to fight back. But 2-0 will win, hopefully, says the Moose One. Well, hopefully they'll turn up and play really open again. I don't know. Venture, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Pulisic is playing really well. What about him, says Alex. Raphael, thank you very much for your super chat. And Zani says, I think Bruno has to stay out of the team for Cunha's sake. He looks so much better because he's dropping into spaces Bruno normally operates in, says Zani. And can you say Dorgu and Heaven are what makes exciting now, says John. Hi, Mark. What is it about Sesko? I've done that one as well. Look, in relation to Bruno Fernandes, he spoke about Bruno Fernandes in the press conference today. And he basically said that on the importance of Bruno when he's playing, he cannot be that guy that's not talking and speaking when he's not playing. He's always speaking. That's why he's the captain. He has bad things sometimes, the way he moves his arms, but he has a lot of good things and he's always leading the game. The practice, every time he makes recovery, he's the guy that's going to watch the other guys training. So there is a lot of things that you don't see that he does. He's a great leader all the time. He's the guy that's watching training even after treatment. He's going there. I don't know if he wants my job or not, but he's a leader. The guy is a leader. So look, I don't want to I don't want to speak badly about a player that is our best player. I mean, I literally said this morning that he's our best signing post Sir Alex Ferguson. He puts in amazing stats and he sometimes puts in amazing performances. But our win ratio in the Premier League this season is below 45%. Amorim's win ratio in the time he's been at this club is below 40%. And his captain is Bruno Fernandes. If he's such a great leader, why don't we have a good win ratio? Now, it's not exclusively his fault, but you play him in the midfield out of position. Imagine what he would be if you played him in the right position. So I'm a little bit confused when Amorim talks about Bruno, because Amorim is the sole reason we're not getting the best out of this player. And I can't believe Bruno doesn't see it. Like Bruno, you would not get criticised if you played as a number 10 in this team. You would be praised every bloody week. But you get shit because you're put in a shit position. And Amorim talks about what a great leader he is, but it's like he ties two arms behind his back. Obviously he doesn't because he's always flapping. But the reality is, he was asked these questions about Bruno, so he has to answer them. But he says he's a great leader, but we're not a great team. We don't win as many games as we should do. So what does that say to me? That says to me we need more leaders in that team and we need to move Bruno into a number 10, but I'm tired of saying it. I'm tired of saying it because it generates the same old knobhead comments about agenda and hater, and I can't explain it any more than I like Bruno Fernandes. I just want him to play as a 10. I don't want to play him in the midfield. Random question, Joe Bellingham, he's troublesome. We saw that with Sancho, but just an opinion, says the Moose one. I don't think we're looking at Joe Bellingham, so I think we'll be okay. The God Low Key says, hi Mark, I knew Amorim won't get a midfielder in January when we recalled Toby Collier. Toby Collier's injured as well. So Collier coming back is terrifying because he's injured and he's not even that good. You know, Amorim got rid of him in the summer. So if he's coming back just to be a midfielder, you know, I like Collier, by the way, but he's never shown any indication that he thinks he's good enough for Man United. In fact, he got rid of him in the summer. If he plays back 4, Bruno 10, I'll back him, says Keel. Absolutely, hallelujah. I would love it. I said this on the video I did this afternoon. You look at that team. If he plays the back 4 for a longer period of time, you can't play Bruno where Casemiro or Ugarte are. Imagine Xerxes was Cunha, and Dorgu and Cunha were Mbeumo and Ahmad. So you've got Cunha at 10, Mbeumo and Ahmad as the wide players. Sesko up front. I like that front 4, by the way. And then you got Bruno and Casemiro. We get run through. Like, Bruno doesn't even work with 3 centre-backs behind him. He's not going to work with 2 behind him. So, be interesting, actually. I'm going to steal this. I saw somebody today say, you can't play Bruno in the midfield with a back 4. So, when Bruno's fit, does that mean we're going back to a 3-4-3? And I don't know the answer to that. But as Keel says, the solution to that is we play Bruno where Xerxes is and we stick with the back 4. That's what I would like. I just want to see Bruno as a number 10. The best number 10 in the Premier League is Bruno Fernandes, and we play him in midfield. Jamie Carragher did his Premier League team of the season so far before Christmas, and he put Bruno Fernandes as his number 10. He doesn't even play as a bloody number 10. So, you know, I completely agree with that. James says, how can any manager succeed at United when United say we aren't going to get what you need? Look, if you tuned in a little bit late, Mikel Arteta did an interview today saying we'll be active in January because we're Arsenal. They are better than us, they've got a better squad than us, but they're not a bigger club than us. Man United's manager did an interview today with a team that's nowhere near as good as Arsenal and a bench that's nowhere near as good as Arsenal and said we might need to suffer till the summer. And we wonder why we fail. Better clubs than us are being active. It's like a race, isn't it? It's like a race. You know, everybody's miles ahead of you in a car race and they fill up with petrol. You're running out of petrol and you drive past the petrol station and the next one says 100 miles and you've only got 60 miles left in the tank. You're living on a prayer. And that seems to be the United strategy. We're losing the race and the cars in front of us, they're refueling halfway through the season. We drive past it, waiting for the next service station, which means that we'll probably run out of fuel. And that strategy has been happening for a very long time. I mean, as somebody mentioned this morning, we were second in the league with Solskjaer. We were all saying, please, please. No, we were top of the league in January, actually, that year. We were top of the league around the 8th of January. And we were all saying, buy a couple of players, let's go for the title. We didn't. We finished second by miles, you know? Amorim has more ambition than Ineos. They've let him down, says Terp. Thank you very much, pal. Mark, hope all is well. Who would you drop if Bruno played the 10 between Ahmad, Cunha and Mbeumo and Sesko? Honestly, I would love a front 4, and I might get pelters for this. My ideal team in that formation for Man United is Lemens in goal, De Ligt and Martinez, Luke Shaw at left back, but I don't know whether he can do it, but I'd try it. Right back would be Mazraoui. Midfield 2, with what we've got, would have to be Casemiro and Ugarte. But I would buy somebody. I'd buy like a Conor Gallagher or a Neves to get us through the summer. I'd play Bruno Fernandes as a 10. I'll play Cunha on the left. I'll play Ahmad on the right, and I'll play Mbeumo up front. And I think we'd get top 4 with that. I really do. Buy a midfielder to help out Ugarte and Casemiro. Move Bruno into the 10. Still got Mainu potentially as well. It's there. You know what? That team formation is there to go and get top 4. As I say, Lemens, Mazraoui, Shaw, Martinez, De Ligt. You've got loads of backup there. You've got Dalot, you've got Maguire, you've got Heverton, you've got Yoro. Loads of backup. Midfield, bring in Conor Gallagher or Ruben Neves to support Ugarte, Casemiro and Mainu. Move Bruno to the 10. Kanya and Ahmad, and then Mbeumo, and then you've still got Sesko on the bench, Mount on the bench, some of the young lads. We'd be fucking Dorgu as well. We'd be fine. Be absolutely fine. But it means moving Bruno, and it means playing a back 4. I just think it would work really well. I really do. United Mini, welcome. Thank you very much for your super chat. Really appreciate it. James says, I wouldn't want Mbeumo as a striker. Nelson says it's an L decision. Well, it's my decision. I wouldn't, that's what I would do. Somebody said, what would you do if you put Bruno as a 10? Who are you dropping, Cunha, Sesko or Ahmad? I'd drop Sesko. We are Manchester United, not Bruno United, says Bailey. I just want to see Bruno Fernandes playing as a number 10. I wouldn't drop Bruno. I wouldn't. I'd play him. While he's at this football club, you've always got to pick him. I agree with that. But you shouldn't shoehorn him in. He shouldn't be shoehorned into a position that he can't play. He should be in his best position. If Lionel Messi was at Manchester United in his prime, would you stick him as a centre midfielder or would you play him off the wing or as a number 10? And I think like our best player should be playing in his best position. I mean, the most obvious thing that you know we don't discuss enough is that if Barcelona did have to use Lionel Messi in his prime as a midfielder, they would go and buy a midfielder the first opportunity they could because they would know Messi is doing the job in an area where they're weak. So Bruno Fernandes is doing a job in an area where we are weak. And we've gone through 2 transfer windows allowing that to happen. It's bloody obvious to everybody he's playing out of position. And we keep putting up with it. What big club does that? Like, he's clearly doing a job in an area where we're weak. And we're willing to keep extending that. I don't see him as a midfielder. I see him as a number 10 playing out of position. So are we going to let January go by again? I also think he's injured because of this position. Might be a little bit out there, but Bruno Fernandes doesn't get hamstring muscle injuries. We've been playing him in the midfield for 5 months and he gets a hamstring injury. So I actually think it's damaging him. I think it's damaging him and I think it's damaging his body. But he's definitely playing out of position and we're allowing it to keep happening. Like if we brought a midfielder in, he could go to a number 10, surely. Surely he wants to use him as a number 10. I mean, I might be wrong, but surely he does. Don't know. Bongo says that's crap. I don't think so, actually. I don't think so at all. I've played football. I'm sure you've played football. If you've played football in a certain position for a decade and then you're asked to do a job at 31 in a position that's more demanding physically, there is a very big chance that you might start to suffer muscle fibre injuries. Of course there are. There's different strains on your body. It's not out of the realms of possibility at all. You can't prove it. You can't prove it. I agree with that. You definitely can't prove it's because he's in midfield that he's got a hamstring injury. But it might just be the fact that he's getting older and he's played a lot of football. But you also can't disprove it. Done that from Sean. Thank you very much as well for that. Messi was free roam at Barca. I saw him in the middle many times. Yeah, you didn't mint sauce. Whoosh. You've completely and utterly not understood what I was talking about, have you? Unlucky. Why is the manager acting like an accountant or a finance director? Seems so conscious and considerate of spend. Where's the money going? Are we not Manchester United as class of 99? I don't think he's really acting like an accountant or a finance director. I think he's acting as if he knows that we're going to struggle to give him the players that he wants. Yeah. And Teague's absolutely spot on. Your body is conditioned to play how you play. changing it causes injuries. Well, that's sort of what I'm saying. I mean, we can't prove it. But look, if a tennis player is used to playing tennis and then you get him to go rock climbing for a week, he will get muscles and aches and pains in different areas of the body because he's not used to it, even though he's a professional tennis player. So if you take a player that's used to playing as a striker or as a number 10, and then you get them to play centre midfield, their body starts doing things that they're not used to doing with different impact. Look, I appreciate it's a conspiracy theory. What I'm saying is there's a downside to using Bruno Fernandes in the midfield, and one of them is he's now injured. So yeah, going back to what Class of 99 says, I don't think Ruben Amorim's acting like an accountant. I think he's acting like a guy who knows that he's maybe not going to get what he wants. But as I said, I don't think Mikel Arteta's comments today about Arsenal looking for players in January, I mean, it's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing for Sir Jim Ratcliffe. You've got a manager who manages a club that's no bigger than ours, who's in a title race, who's bought half a team in the summer, who is saying we'll be actively looking to add players in January again because we're Arsenal. And when you've got Man United, who are nowhere near as good as Arsenal, who need to buy loads of players, going, we're going to wait till the summer. And that analogy is spot on. How do you be successful in a race where everybody else is refueling ahead of you, and then you're going to drive past the petrol station and see if you can make it on a half-empty tank? It's just a crap way to run a football club, and that's not on Ruben Amorim. That's not on Ruben Amorim. You know, some people might say, well, he's an idiot for taking the job. You know, did Ruben Amorim know he wasn't going to get backed? Did he know they weren't going to buy his players? Did he know that they were going to basically force him to change formation? If he knew all those things, you'd question why he took the job. I guarantee he didn't know all those things. I guarantee he was told, we want to play your system. We're going to bring players in for your system. I guarantee he was told those things. A year down the line, I think he was lied to. I certainly don't think he's been backed to the level he should have been backed, and I think it's appalling that he's not had one midfielder yet. But there we go. Sean says, I agree with dropping Sesko between him, Ahmad, Cunha and Mbeumo. I love the community. Look, it's not dropping Sesko. It's just I would like to see Bruno play as a number 10 in a back four. I would love to see Cunha, Ahmad and Mbeumo as the front three with Sesko, you know, nurtured and coming off the bench and occasionally starting. But I don't think we'll see that because I'm not convinced we'll see the back four as much as we think we want to. But there we go. Bal says, you made lots of analysis to justify why United should go for Agate before he was bought, but look at his performances now. Yeah, mate, I don't manage the team. I don't train the team. I don't meet the player. I don't know their personality. I just saw that Man United's midfield was crap and is still crap. And there was a player in Agate who was topping the European stats for ball recoveries and intensity. So when we were linked to him, I thought it was quite an interesting signing. I don't remember ever saying Agate is the player we need to go and buy before we were ever linked to him. I just thought he was quite an exciting signing. But I didn't interview him. I didn't train him. And that's on Man United. It's not on me, mate. Sorry, you might want to put it on me, but it's not. And he was a very interesting signing, and I thought, it was one of Ineos's first signings as well. And we were at that time, you wanted to believe Ineos knew what they were on about. So, it's one of those. But as I said at the start, as Amorim said, we don't want to buy players in January because we don't want to make mistakes. We want to wait until the summer. But you will make mistakes. Maybe Agate is a mistake. Maybe Sesko will be a mistake. You will make mistakes in the transfer market because nobody gets 100% transfers right. It doesn't happen. But that shouldn't stop you trying to bring the right players in. Can Amorim rejuvenate with the new formation and forsake the old one? Or the board already doubt Amorim to take his job as Wilcott's conflicting him on transfers, says John. I don't think we'll see back four every week. I'd like to see a back four every week, but I don't think we're going to see that. He's already sort of loaded the, alternative of when the players come back from AFCON and Bruno comes back. I think he'll play lip service to the back four. I think we'll play a 3-4-3, but sometimes you'll be able to see a 4. I think he'll try and fuse the two so that he retains something about himself, but also gives the players something they're used to. I think we'll see a fusion of the two. I don't think we'll see a definitive back four like we did against Newcastle for 45 minutes. I think it will be changing around, but I would love to see it now. Now we've seen it back. What happened to that guy from McLaren, says Keel? Oh, the tech guy, he is there. He is definitely still there. I think he came from Mercedes as well. It wasn't McLaren. Anywho, thank you so much for the show tonight. Match day tomorrow. Very excited about it. Let's get 3 points because the conversation and debate will always carry on. But if we're winning, at least we're moving. How does January window force the club into mistakes, says Kia? Exactly. Because Manchester United are absolutely determined to make Man United fans think January is about panic. Manchester United love it not spending money in January. Well, they love not spending money anyway, but they love not spending in January. So they put out this propaganda that January is a difficult market and it's for panic. But every other club that's a big club proves it's not. Man City are about to buy Semenyo. Arsenal are looking to buy players. Chelsea have bought Enzo Fernandez in January. You can buy in January. Think it's easy to want Bruno higher up, but when it comes to having Ugarte as a midfielder, you lose a lot of experience, understanding of tactics, distribution, work rate. Bruno is our best midfield option, sadly. I disagree, Wood. I thank you so much for giving us a different conversation or opinion, but I've watched Bruno play midfield all season, and I don't think he's very good. I think most of his goals and assists come from positions where a number 10 plays. If you look back at all Bruno's goals and assists this season, he'd be in that position as a number 10 anyway. And if you look at a lot of the goals and bad games we've had, it's because Bruno's not tracking runners, or he doesn't know how to mark, or he doesn't know where to be, or he's not in the position he needs to be. I just think if Bruno played as a 10, we'd get more output. We wouldn't lose any output, but we'd be better defensively. And I think I'm factually correct on that as well. Most of his goals and assists you would have got anyway. In fact, you probably get more. And his lack of discipline and ability to defend has cost us a lot of goals that a better midfielder would stop. So you put him in the number 10, you get more out of him, and then you put someone in the midfield who does do the stuff that he doesn't do. So I don't think we'd lose anything with him going out of the midfield. But we would lose something with him not being in the team. So that's why he has to be the 10. Take care, everybody. Sean is a new member as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, as I said. Stay safe. Match day tomorrow. Back with you at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning as well. If you didn't watch the press conference reaction with Beth, that's on the channel. And if you didn't get the formation conversation, I did that on the channel before as well. Stay safe, everyone. Take care. I'll speak to you all soon.